go. That's also me, so I don't know how that's happening. Hello. Okay, so it is new. We're going to get started. Today's webinar is how to improve your health and lose weight. Awesome. Something everybody wants to know.
Yes. I mean, we've talked about this just for our own personal stuff sometimes. So just a little housekeeping. If you have questions, there's a Q&A box. So please just put your questions in there and we're monitoring those. Or we'll also be sure to answer them at the end of the presentation. So if something doesn't come up during this, then you can ask us at the end.
Yeah. We have all right, so we want to make the most of this time. This is your hour to learn and absorb knowledge and to take this time for yourself. We know your time is valuable. We're going to cover a lot of information in a short amount of time.
Yes, we are.
So tell us, what diets have you tried before? So I don't know, maybe do you want to tell me a diet you've tried before?
Let's see. I've tried the not Cheetos, what are those things? Cheez-It cracker only diet. I was on that one during high school. It worked for me real well. I wouldn't call it necessarily a diet, but I was definitely a vegetarian for a long time. Not the healthful kind, but I thought I was.
Yeah.
So I've done that. Oh, I've done some crazy cleanses, but not the kind that I would do now.
Yeah.
You've done the cabbage? Did you? No, you did the master cleanse.
I did the master cleanse like for 3 days, so it was stupid. And then in high school, I did this thing where they were like, just eat pineapple for a week. That didn't go well either.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, most of my diets were like restriction diets.
Yeah.
Yes.
So you guys are in the right place if you've actually ever been on a diet or if you've tried restricting calories or macros for weight loss, which is the majority of the population.
Yes.
You're also in the right place if you want to learn how to improve your overall health, which I mean, most of us do.
I mean, that's what I'm here for.
You're in the right place if you have a hunch that there has to be a better way besides all of these crazy things that we've been trying or told to do by, diet culture and the media. Or even like your friend's sister's yoga instructor. Everybody has their opinion of, how it's supposed to go. And you're definitely in the right place if you're ready to learn and try something new. Learning new things can be challenging for our brain because sometimes when we learn new things, it can be perceived as a threat to our body.
Yeah, it can seem scary because it's just the unknown. So the brain is just scared of the unknown, and that's okay because you don't have to know exactly where you're going to end up at the end of a new healthful path.
Yeah. Okay, so here's what we're going to cover today. It is a lot, but we're talking about what is gut health and how to get started improving your own gut health for better health and weight because everything starts in the gut. So we can't talk about improving our health and weight without talking about gut health.
And we're also going to touch on why we actually need cholesterol and fat because they are important for our hormones and for our healthy body. So we're not trying to restrict those out, and so we want to make sure that you know why we need them. And then we're also going to talk about how to lose weight naturally and keep it off.
Yeah, something everybody wants to know. Okay, so just really quickly want to introduce ourselves. I'm Jessica.
And I'm Beth.
We actually met in culinary school. So this is us. You'll see Beth there on the right. That's the back of her head. And I'm on the left in the middle. And we're preparing to graduate from culinary school. We've been friends for a while. We like to do fun things. This is us at a Snoop Dogg concert, probably like in 2011.
That was a long time ago.
7 years ago. And then this is us. We love to plan vacations and retreats. And this is us in Cabo.
Yeah. So we like to go out and do things, enjoy life.
And we've tried a lot. We talked a little bit about our diets in the past. So from juice cleanses to low carb diets, part of our passion for food and nutrition has naturally led us, of course, down these paths that all of you have probably been down before, but we've learned a whole lot more.
Yes.
And that's what we want to share with you today.
Yep.
So we really set the course to flip the script. We had to learn how to think differently because our thoughts produce our feelings and our actions. And so we had to learn how to not just think differently, but think for ourselves.
Yeah, that was definitely a mind shift. So I had to, also think differently about myself, not only how I thought about food, but how I thought about myself. So that is an important component. And to stop thinking about food as just these little bits of things that are either creating weight or not creating weight, and thinking of them as nourishment.
Yes. Did you know the diets are the only thing that we buy that when they fail, we buy more? How messed up is that?
That's so messed up. Yeah, we would never continue to buy products that we didn't like. Like, we wouldn't keep buying food that we don't like, or things that break after one use.
If your car keeps breaking, are you going to buy that exact same car?
No, I turned it in, actually.
And again, I just want to thank you guys for being here. We worked really hard to share all this information. We have, shared on these platforms before. So if you don't know what they are, definitely go check them out. And we're going to get started with gut health. What is gut health?
Okay, gut health means a lot of things to a lot of different people. But in general, when I talk about gut health, it just means how well does your digestive system work? Are you digesting your food that starts from chewing all the way down to your stomach? So do you have enough digestive enzymes, no bacteria in there that's causing there to be problems like ulcers? And then what happens in the small intestine? Are you able to finish digestion and absorb them? And then, which includes gut bacteria. So all the trillions of bacteria and yeast and other microorganisms that are living in harmony and sometimes without harmony within us, and how that's contributing to our health. So all of that plays a big role, which includes stress management, sleep, exercise, our emotions, and relationships. So our gut is impacted by all of these things.
It's all connected.
Yeah.
Okay, so what might symptoms be if I have poor gut health?
Okay, so one of the most common is bloating and gas. That's what we kind of think about first. Some people will have things like IBS, so irritable bowel syndrome. So that can look like either constipation or diarrhea.
Which I think is what most people think of when they think of like, oh, there's something wrong in my stomach, is the constipation, diarrhea, IBS stuff.
Yes. Well, also a lot of bloating.
Right. And
Most people don't like that.
But there's other symptoms, right? Like our skin and migraines.
So eczema and migraines is a big one, and even osteoarthritis can be a common thing that's related to gut health. And we can also have issues with our hormones and how we metabolize them and that sort of thing as well. So there's lots of different things that can look like one thing, but it really is all starting in the gut.
And that's why so many clients become frustrated because they have a symptom and they go to a doctor that might specialize in that part of the body.
Right.
And then it turns out they're fine, quote unquote.
Right.
They're not dying.
Yeah. Right.
And so then the doctor is like, well, you may or may not even qualify for medication. And if you do qualify for the medication, you kind of go down that path. And then when that medicine doesn't work or it has a harmful side effect, you get more frustrated.
Yeah.
Or if you don't get a diagnosis, that's also frustrating because you're like, well, what is going on?
Yeah. So one of my favorite examples is a client that we had who had severe psoriasis. And we cleaned up her gut, and we had a dermatologist help out, like, to kind of slow things down. But while that was going on, we were cleaning up the gut and finding the infection, which ended up being candida and a couple of food sensitivities, all related what was driving her whole body psoriasis. And so she is now without active psoriasis. And so it's my favorite gut healing story.
I love it. So we're going to tell you just a few simple ways to improve your gut health. And the number one tip we talk about is increasing variety of foods.
And what we mean by this is that we tend to be creatures of habits, us humans, and we eat the same things over and over again. And we can actually what's called lose tolerance or lose oral tolerance to foods that we eat all the time. And so if we increase the variety of the foods, then we have an increase in variety of proteins that our body sees. And so it can then not react to them and cause an unnecessary food reaction, which is sometimes what we could find like in like diarrhea or headaches.
Yeah, many of the people that we have with some food sensitivities is that they are eating that same food every single day. So it could even be a healthy food like broccoli.
Yeah.
But if that's the only vegetable you're eating, there's a chance that you could develop an intolerance to it, which is no fun.
Yeah, we've seen somebody that had bananas every day for 20 years, and we got rid of bananas, and that cleared up about 70% of her symptoms, and then we had to kind of work on some of the others.
Yeah, or spinach can be common for many reasons, but it tends to be a green that like everyone's comfortable with eating, so they only buy and eat spinach, but there's all kinds of greens out there, so give that a try. We talk about identifying what are the foods that might be causing us a problem, and there's a few ways that you can do that.
Yeah, so you can do a food journal, which then is like, well, I had this, and then after this many hours, I had my symptom. That can be really helpful. So it's like every time I have corn, I get this rash on my elbow or on my fingers. Or
you might not know that those are related, right?
Right.
So as long as you're logging what you eat with your symptoms, then you can kind of go back.
Right. So that's what's super important. Or every time I have, you log on there, you notice that every time you ate pepperonis or some type of cured meat, you get a migraine. So that can be helpful. So it takes a long time because you may not eat those foods all the time. And so it can be sort of, or some people react to a lot of foods, and so then you just have no idea. What's also done is an elimination diet. So removing a lot of the common foods that cause people issues like wheat, dairy, eggs, nuts, and soy, and sometimes shellfish. When we eliminate those for 3 weeks, then we often feel better, and then we bring them back in one-on-one. Or I like to do it the fast way, which is to do a lab test and just what we call the windshield wiper of finding our safe foods and eat those while slowly reintroducing other foods.
And then, of course, eating more fiber.
Yes. So the reason why we need to eat more fiber is to help feed our gut bacteria. So our gut bacteria likes to use our non-digestible fibers as their energy source. And when they are producing their byproducts, where they're making short-chain fatty acids, a particular type of fat that's for us, they make certain B vitamins for us. They help regulate our hormones, including the ones that control our weight. And then it also can help to change the balance of certain bacteria. So in people that have diets that are not high in fiber, they have a certain type of bacteria that causes them to gain weight or hold on to weight more easily, extract more energy out of our food, and versus when we have a high fiber diet, we tend to have less of that one and more of a bacteria where it's controlling our weight in different ways, so we're more moderate weight.
Yeah, so that's why we recommend to every one of our clients to eat 6 to 8 cups of veggies a day.
And 6 is just like bare minimum.
Yeah,
we really promote
as many veggies as possible. Okay, so we're going to talk about making friends with fat and what you need to know. The internet won't tell you about cholesterol because cholesterol has been demonized over the years.
They sure have.
And we have a lot of, clients or people that we know in our lives who are on medications from having high cholesterol.
Yeah, so we do need cholesterol. So I'm going to go a little science on you real quick. But cholesterol we get from food, and our liver is able to make some as well. But essentially what it is like a starting block to making all of our hormones. If we, picture little, stop sign size molecules, and then we make them, and then that's the backbone, and then our body will add different side chains to them to make estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, even cortisol, and other stress hormones as well. Vitamin D is sort of is cholesterol sort of backbones, like hormone-like. So it's not exactly made out of cholesterol, but it has a similar structure to it. So we use all of that. And so what we do when we eat cholesterol and our liver, decides what needs to happen with it is it'll send out a particular kind called LDL cholesterol, and that is taking cholesterol to the cell to use to make, say, estrogen. And then HDL will be also in the blood, and HDL comes and kind of scoops everything up that is no longer needed and brings it back to the liver to get out of the body. So LDL is often called our bad cholesterol or our lousy cholesterol, but it's actually very helpful and has a job. So if we don't eat enough cholesterol, or if our cholesterol gets too low, then we actually have a major problem making hormones. And so the problem comes with both good cholesterol and bad cholesterol if it goes from its normal state of being big and bouncy to small and sticky. So on a standard lipid panel that you would get from your doctor, it does not give you that information. You have to ask for the expanded lipid panel, because even your good cholesterol, the HDL cholesterol, can be fine in numbers, but if it's small and sticky, it's not really doing its proper job and is causing problems too.
So helpful.
So helpful.
So we're going to talk about some simple ways to manage better cholesterol. And the first tip is actually balancing your blood sugar, which I think is interesting because most people think the first step is to avoid, eating fat, but really blood sugar plays such an important role in cholesterol.
Yeah, so the reason why it plays a role in cholesterol is the inflammation that happens. So when we have a lot of extra blood sugar, it causes inflammation in our arteries, and then the cholesterol will go to the site of inflammation and act as spackle. And then that's when it becomes even more inflammatory and can cause it to build up and clog, and then sometimes break away and then cause even more problems, risk for stroke and that sort of thing. So really the issue is keeping blood sugar down and keeping inflammation down so cholesterol doesn't have to be used as spackle.
And so tell me about triglycerides.
Oh, triglycerides. So the reason why balancing blood sugar is also important is when we have too many carbohydrates, then we will store the extra as fat, and those are called triglycerides. So you also get that on a fat panel, and those are really important numbers to look at. So you want them to be like around 75 to 85 to know that you're managing normal blood sugar and able to use it and not store it. Whenever the more it increases over 85, the more likely that you are having issues with insulin and being able to use up all of your blood sugar.
Cool. This is off topic. So is that contributed to fatty liver?
Definitely contributes to fatty liver, because we store fat not only on the places that we don't want, like our hips and thighs, but also in our liver.
Good times. Okay, so then it's like, okay, well, I should eat fat, but not all kinds of fat.
Not all kinds of fat. Quality totally matters,
Yeah.
right? Like this is one of your favorite things you love to talk about with clients is making sure we get the right fats.
Yeah, so what happens is, we all go out to eat. We love restaurants. Our communities thrive on eating out. But what happens is those restaurants are there to profit. So they are not using high quality fats unless it's a very fancy restaurant or a restaurant that is there for your health, which we have a few in Austin, so we're very lucky. But for the most part, restaurants are using really low quality oils, and those are ones that are actually inflammatory and not support.
Sometimes we buy bad oil.
You can buy bad oil.
One, we don't know if it's gone bad, or it's a lot of olive oils have been imported that aren't true olive oil, and so that's a problem. And then, or we just don't know, we just buy whatever we've been used to buying since our mom or grandma was using it.
Yeah.
So we don't know to use high quality fats. And so what are some of our high quality fats?
We love avocado oil.
And avocados themselves.
Yes, olives and olive oil and actual olives.
Yeah. And with the olive oil, make sure to not heat it very much. So you can cook it just a little bit, but once it starts to overheat, then it changes its
Which
composition.
is true with any oil. So anytime you're cooking, if your oil starts to smoke, it's time to start over because that means the oil has changed. Not for the better.
And it causes inflammation. Some of our other fats that we do like is we like grass-fed butter in moderation. I use coconut oil sometimes, but not all the time. And so we use lots of different fats, but make sure you're getting them from whole food sources like nuts, seeds, avocados, and olives, and also in high quality oils.
My body also really loves that fatty acid supplement that we actually started doing with our detox. I noticed that when I take that, my body responds like immediately to it. Like it's just thirsty for that stuff.
I'm gonna get you some more of that.
I know. Okay, so tip number 3 is eat more fiber. Does that sound familiar?
So the reason why we need more fiber to managing cholesterol is we have what happens is we have our insoluble fiber will attach to the cholesterol and kind of excrete it out. And so some of that is the cholesterol that we eat, and some of that is the cholesterol that our liver is no longer needs and gets rid of. And so we need that soluble fiber to find to it and get on out.
Eating fiber is like brushing your teeth. You know, it's like it goes in and it attaches to things and moves things out.
That's right. It's like sort of like a pipe cleaner.
Yeah. Okay, so just as a reminder, diets that are too low in fat lead to all of these things.
Yeah, brain fog, mental health issues, hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, and weight gain. So we need to make sure that we are getting fat. It's important fat builders.
Well, in those hormonal imbalances, insulin resistance, and weight gain are kind of all in this like same thing. Like one causes each other. So we just have to make sure we're getting the right stuff.
That's right.
Okay, so your new truth is that fat is actually your friend. And now we finally get to talk about weight loss, which is why you're all here. This is just like, basically what we're going to tell you is what the diet industry can't package into a product and sell to you. Like, it's just...
Well, it's not exciting.
It's not exciting. It's not a product. It's not an overnight fix. But if you can take what we're going to tell you today and put it into action, you will see results.
Yes. Okay, so you have to understand your own natural hunger.
Which sounds easy, but unfortunately our natural hunger, like if we just grew up in the woods and we didn't have fast food or restaurants, our natural hunger has been, it's not calibrated correctly because we do have processed foods. So we have flour and sugar and alcohol and all these great, wonderful, fun things that we like to consume. But unfortunately, those raise our blood sugar. They put us on kind of this different pathway, and it changes the way that our brain and our stomach speak to each other and how we understand what our hunger is. And if you're eating a diet higher in flour and sugar, you're going to actually feel more hungry more often. And then you're more likely to feel hangry. And when you're hangry, it's almost impossible to make a smart choice.
Almost impossible. Only if you know where you are, like what's happening to you, and you can really rationalize your food. But that takes a lot of practice. And there are still moments where I'm like, I know what I'm doing, but I can't. I still get all the carbs in.
Yeah. So it's not as simple as like eating when you're hungry, stopping when you're full. Because if you do that, let's say I eat when I'm hungry, but I'm eating pizza and cookies, and then I stop when I'm full, I'm going to be a lot more hungry 2 hours later than if I had some vegetables, sweet potato, and protein. So it works differently. But it is important to know kind of your hunger scale. Like, what does it feel like to be a little bit hungry and a little bit full? What does it feel like to be moderately hungry or moderately full? These are all things that you can play around with whatever you're eating right now. And then you can switch your diet to, reduce flour and sugar and see how that actually changes the way you feel. So that's a fun experiment.
Oh yeah.
It takes time.
It does take time, and it is a great experiment to see how it affects us. Like even we still will go through these times. We're like, wow, I thought I was really regulated. Turns out I was still a little bit off from these, extra indulgences. So.
Okay, so the number 2 most important tip for specifically weight loss is keeping your insulin low.
Right. So when we are having high spikes in insulin, it is promoting us to gain weight because we're storing extra carbs and things like that as fat. The other thing it does is if we're constantly having high levels of insulin and blood sugar, it's the cells are like, oh no, we have all this sugar we need to use up. We have all this sugar we need to use up. I can't use you right now, talking to the fat. And so the fat is not really able to be used for energy. But you're also not really getting all the glucose you need because the body is not responding very well to the insulin because it's always high. So that is part of the issue, is that you're not burning really any energy, but your body's like, but I'm not getting the energy I need. I don't have enough to make the energy in my cell to continue on. Like, so then it's like, okay, well, we must need more food. And so it sends a signal to the brain that's like, we apparently need more food. And so we eat again, and our blood sugar continues to go up. And then we also have some fat. And so so it's a vicious cycle of not being able to use any of the carbs or very few of the carbs and not very much of the fat. And we're just storing everything.
I think most people, when they think about insulin, they're like, but I'm not diabetic. I don't even need, why do I need to think about insulin?
Because our insulin becomes dysregulated and our blood sugar becomes dysregulated. We see the signs in insulin 10 to 20 years before we see blood glucose diabetes levels. So you can see it much sooner than the tests that are used to be diagnosed for diabetes. So
the simplest way to reduce your insulin on a regular basis is to avoid added sugars.
Added sugars, excess alcohol, and also really, really limiting the amount of foods that you eat that have been floured. So whole wheat bread is totally a misnomer. It is not whole. If it was whole, you would be eating whole grain. Like you would be eating the grains like you eat rice. So whole wheat bread is just been pulverized as well.
I feel like we should do this really quick because Beth drew this wonderful diagram for another video, but I think this is super helpful.
Oh yeah, so I'll let me give you. Okay, so here we have our carb chain. So this is like, say, rice, so whole grain rice.
Or like a potato.
Or a potato. So what we have here is when we digest them, we're like cutting them up at each end. That's where our digestive enzymes kind of get them at, is at the ends. It starts at the ends and kind of works its way in. But if we were to flour that rice and turn it into rice flour to make say pasta with, you now have all these new end chains that your digestive enzymes are working on, and is like, so it can digest all of these at once. And so we're getting a lot more sugar all at once versus up here where we're kind of just hacking away at each end. So here we've got all these spots.
So in short, not all carbs are created equal. Carbs aren't necessarily the enemy.
No.
We just need to focus on getting our energy from whole foods versus processed foods.
Yes.
And that will take care of our insulin. Okay, and this brings us to our tip number 3, which is nourishing your body. Because a lot of times people think, well, less is more, which Beth just covered, like we have to eat food to give our body the nutrients and nutrition that it needs to function properly. And so over restriction of calories or any specific macronutrients is probably not going to lead you to a result that you're looking for. It might give you a short-term result, but long-term it's not healthy for your body, and odds are you're not going to be able to stick with it.
Right. So we just want to make sure that you understand that we need to nourish our body with a variety of foods, not eating, under stress, and then also just having high quality fats and all sorts of things. So take care of your body. It's the only one you have.
Yeah. And I think a lot of times we struggle with balancing, I love myself, but I also want to do what I want whenever I want.
Oh, right. Yeah. Like I'm no longer under control of somebody else.
Yeah. So that's something that we address with clients, accepting your body as it is to move forward. And then also finding joy in other things besides like sugar and alcohol. and bread. I mean, those things are joyful, and there's a time and a place to include those depending on your health and your goals. We're not anti, no, there is no good and bad food.
Yeah.
But if you think about food as a medicine, what is the prescription for that particular food for your unique body and your goals? And when it comes to weight loss, we have to find that balance, and find out what's right for you.
Yeah.
And it can help to learn what else brings me joy besides ice cream and wine.
Right. Yeah. And sometimes that is hard to do after a long, stressful day, or we feel like we need to reward ourselves in some particular way.
Yeah. So let's nourish our body in other ways besides bad food.
Right. So our new truth is that you cannot punish your body into submission. And what we mean by this is that stress of constantly telling yourself that you're bad, you're not good enough, you've overeaten, why can't you do this diet right? All of that is a form of stress, and stress causes holding on.
Mm-hmm.
So,
it's a real catch-22.
So you can create change for yourself and want to change your diet and your lifestyle, but you have to do it from a place of love, not from a place of beating it into submission and fear.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so coming back, not all carbs are the same, right? This is a recap. So not all carbs are the same. Carbs are not bad. There are whole food carbs versus processed carbs, which we talked about. So your whole food carbs are like whole grain, like real whole rice, oats, quinoa, or even like potatoes, sweet potatoes, starchy veggies, but also beans, whole fruit. So there's a lot of good carby goodness, even vegetables, right? Even our greens are carbs.
Greens and jicama and all of that fun
stuff. So much
stuff.
delicious food is carbs, so we don't want to demonize carbs. But there are processed carbs, which again, there's no bad and good, but these are the ones that we want to eat fewer of, especially if our goal is weight loss. And those processed carbs are basically anything that has been whole, that has been grounded.
Right.
Into a solid form.
Yeah, it's like, what was this before it became that? So, I mean, we love the almond flour tortillas and things like that, but even that was taking something whole and turned it into a flour so we can enjoy its vehicle to get all of the other things in. And then the other component is, say, fruit and fruit juice. Even, combining it with greens, there's usually still a lot of extra sugar in there that doesn't have the fiber to help balance out how it digests and absorbs. So, and again, just
all the good carbs. Okay. So not all calories are created equal, because there's for sale, you can buy 100 calorie snack pack of goldfish
versus 100 calories of carrots, which was it's a lot of carrots.
Yeah.
So not all calories are created equal. So the calorie in versus calorie out model is a complete farce. It is not true. We all burn energy in different ways. We all take in food different ways and that sort of thing. So please do not count your calories that go in and then try to estimate all of your calories that are going out, because it's not going to be an even match. It depends on the types of food that you eat. It depends on how well your body utilizes them and what you are doing.
Yeah, I think people get really wrapped up in calories and the scale. Those are really the only two metrics that most people use when it comes to weight loss. But we should be tracking, am I eating enough vegetables today? How do I feel physically? Did I go for a walk today? How am I feeling mentally? There are so many other factors that tie into your health and weight besides weight and calories.
Yes. Very good.
Okay, so believing that calories or carbs are the enemy promotes this unhealthy behavior. And so what we mean by unhealthy behavior is believing in these ideas that diet foods are healthy for you when they're actually just processed foods. I saw a bar at the grocery store the other day and it just said weight loss across the top, and I was like, that seems so wrong just to put weight loss on a food.
Right.
And it's not even real food,
Right.
and it's making this big promise. And I know that there's some people out there that just see that and will buy it because they like the promise that it's offering. But really, if you just go to the produce department,
Right.
you know, or just like shop the perimeter of the store. We don't think that food has to be boring. We don't believe that you have to just live off of steamed broccoli and chicken and sweet potato. Like, you can have, you know, a variety of foods and make them flavorful with, you know, seasonings and condiments and herbs and spices, and it can be all very delicious.
Yeah, I wish I had taken a picture of my dinner last night, because as it was coming together, I was like, oh, it's gonna be a not so flavorful meal, because it just didn't feel like it was coming together the way I had seen it in my mind, but ended up being awesome, and I'm gonna tell you about it.
Yeah.
Totally. So I made shrimp, just simple cooked shrimp in the pan, and then heated up black beans on the side. And then I made the salad. And so this all sounds really boring, but I had also made a dressing out of toasted nuts and seeds. And then I used smoked paprika and a sweet chili that I can't pronounce, so I won't embarrass. It starts with a G-U.
So yeah, the Korean.
No, it's it is a chili pepper, but it's like, anyway, I can't pronounce.
Guajillo.
Yes, thank you. So I'm like the worst Spanish speaker ever. So anyways, that and pasilla, I did those three together.
So you built like an interior Mexican bowl or something.
I did. And so then we used that and tossed the salad in that nut and seed with the oil and everything like that.
Delicious.
And then everything just came together so beautifully. And I was really impressed because it was looking real sad for a second. But that one tiny condiment pulled it all together.
That sounds delicious.
Yeah.
So this comes back to this point, which is over-restricting leads to nutrient deficiencies, low energy, and weight holding. Just to cover this really quick, I feel like the people that come and see us who eat the least tend to hold on to weight the most.
Right, because so if you think about the body is trying to hold on to whatever it can, because it's trying to go into self-preservation mode, which means that your metabolic rate slows down, so your heart rate will drop, your ability to burn fat efficiently goes down. So everything just sort of slows down. You might notice that your hair is changing. It might be falling out or that sort of thing. So or your nails are getting lots of ridges and things like that in it. So when we over restrict, we're not getting the true nutrients that we need. Our energy is being slowed down in order to preserve the calories that we have on board, and we hold on to weight. It's not until we get into severe restriction for long periods of time that we are on like almost starvation mode, because you have to keep lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering calories. And then what happens, and this has all been scientifically studied, is that when they go back to refeeding normally, they gain all of the weight and then plus some. And they have even done this in studies where they took these, I don't know why somebody would volunteer for this, but they basically put them in complete starvation mode, and they were whittling down, and then they refed them, and they gained all the weight plus some.
So if that person who gained the weight plus some stuck with a whole foods diet, do you think that they would even out over time?
Yes.
Yeah. It just takes time.
It does take time.
Yeah.
But the brain sort of kind of.
Yeah.
It took it was like multiple years.
Yeah.
For them to get back to normal.
Yeah. So those 500 calorie diets are a no for us.
Yeah, because what happens is we're not research subjects. They don't kind of time everything. Is that in our diet industry, we do the restriction, we lose a little bit, and then we get tired of it or we can't maintain it. So then we go back to eating the way we did before. Then again, the weight comes back on, sometimes plus a little bit more, and then we're like, oh, and then we try something else, and then we lose that weight. And so we just keep doing it multiple times, and so every time we're just adding more and more weight. So we're messing with our metabolism.
And this is a question we get a lot, because I know people out there have seen the word intermittent fasting, or maybe you've tried, the keto diet. So like, what about that? Can you tell us a little bit about?
Yeah, so intermittent fasting is basically taking the amount of time that you eat to a certain window. So say for example, so most of us fast actually every day. So we will stop eating dinner at 8 p.m. and then we don't eat breakfast again until say 7 a.m. So we have fasted for 11 hours. But what some people do is they actually will eat dinner at 8 and then they'll have a snack like around 10. And then if they're out, on a weekend and celebrating, they might have, this could continue to go on until like midnight. But even so say you had dinner and then you had a dessert or a snack again at 10 or 11 p.m. And then you wake up and you're eating again at like 7 a.m. So your fasting window becomes much slower, and our body is kind of cleaning up the debris and using things up, and it really helps to reset the metabolism. So we need a break from eating. But intermittent fasting, they're doing the research on how long can we take that fasting. So instead of going from like a 10-hour time frame from dinner to breakfast, like can we go, what are the benefits at 12 hours and 14 hours and 16 hours and whole day fast? And so there is some research to show that there is some benefit to having some intermittent fasting. It doesn't have to be every day, but you still have to get in the calories during the eating window. So what they have found is that they still have to get in all the nutrients that the body needs and those calories to fuel from eating window to eating window to get you through the fast. And that is where a lot of people kind of go awry, because they are not, their body hasn't adjusted. They're eating a lot of the wrong types of foods, those processed carbs and low quality fats and things like that. So
they're just not eating enough, and then they go into starvation.
Yeah, they'll have like a regular meal, like one regular size meal that you would have if you were to eat 3 meals a day. But really it's kind of like 2 very large meals.
And if you're training or like doing athletics on top of that, then you have to fit even more food into that window. So it can be challenging to do it well.
Yes.
But it can be done.
It can be done.
But you need some guidance to figure out what's right for you.
Yeah, so I just for some reason realized that I naturally do like a intermittent fast on Sunday. It just is like my body rhythm. I don't plan for it, but it's just kind of how it goes, and it works, but it doesn't work for me for every day, and it may not work for anyone at all.
Yeah.
So it just depends. The body needs real food.
Yeah, this is really the whole point of this webinar, is that real food in whole natural form supports your body's health and natural weight. And the more that we can make this our natural diet, the better off you're going to be in the long run. So it's not, we told you this is not sexy.
Nope.
It's not something that anyone can bottle for you or turn into a pill, or, I guess we could write a book. But basically,
I don't think it would sell very well.
Yeah.
I'd probably title it Consistency or something.
Yeah. And the real challenge, the honest truth of why this is so hard, is because we do find so much pleasure in other things like alcohol, sugar, and flour, to the point where like we're actually using those things to avoid other things in our lives that aren't going very well. And that's part of the work that we do with you is, what remains when we take away your sugar every day? Like, what emotions come up, what thoughts come up, what are you going through? And by all means, we're not therapists, but helping you identify some of these challenges and working through them. And then, how do we fit in the celebration foods or those joy foods on occasion without, sending you down this like other spiral of,
some people call it being bad or off the wagon or fell off the plan or all those things.
Yeah, but the total food freedom is knowing how food interacts with your body, knowing, what are your limits and how can you enjoy joy foods sometimes, and knowing like what are the consequences of those and how do you navigate them without having those negative thoughts about yourself. Because food is not shameful, and food is not good or bad. You are not good or bad for eating food. So, which brings us to this point: diets often fail because they are too restrictive. there's a lot of restrictive diets out there. You know, people either go way too low carb or, you know,
Way too
whatever
low calorie.
whatever is out there. There's so many things,
Yeah.
and it's really unsustainable. And we'd like to help you build a sustainable lifestyle. This is your other truth, is that nourishment is holistic. It's not just about the food that you put in your mouth. It's the whole picture. It's your gut health. It's your mental health. It's your activity, your relationships, how well you're sleeping. It's so many things. And what diets get wrong is they only focus on what goes into your mouth. Some people might focus on what goes into your mouth and how are you burning it off by doing a lot of exercise. But that's only two pieces of the puzzle.
There's much more. So we need to nourish ourselves from all angles, and that includes our food. So get plenty of sleep, lower your stress, get rid of drama, and move your body a little bit, whatever works for you.
Yeah, just these few simple steps. No big deal. Yeah, and that's a lot. And that's why clients choose to work with us, because we give them the support throughout this whole process of defining what they eat. What is your protocol? How do you eat? What nourishes your body? Making sure that your gut health is on point and that everything under the hood is looking good.
Yeah.
And then managing all the stuff that bubbles up when we go through this. This is a life-changing process. It's not a diet.
Right.
And learning to think differently, right? Because it's hard to have an open mind. It's hard to shed old beliefs of things like, oh, well, this is bad for me, or I know in the past that this happened to my body. Those are all old beliefs that are kind of holding you back from doing something different.
And I'm a 100% testament of it.
And we're all guilty of it, yeah.
And man, was it feel good to let it go. It was so freeing.
Yeah.
And I lost weight when I did, because I was stopped holding. I was basically carrying around a lot of bad energy.
It's amazing what your emotions can do to your body. Yeah, so we would love to know how you feel now. I see Mary in here. I see Jessica. If you guys have any questions, tell us. We want you to consider this. We need to stop fighting food and start embracing it. To stop punishing our bodies and start actually providing for them, and then just slow down and enjoy our lives, and we'll actually get the results that we've been looking for much sooner than we ever expected from something like this. So you can actually live your life and get results without torturing yourself. Imagine that. Yeah, and also people are like, well, this sounds all fine and dandy, but does it work? It does. It works. And I also want to say, like, quote unquote, the word work, like everything works because everything has an outcome and a consequence. But is this going to give you the result that you want? And yes, it does take practice, but if you do this, it does work.
Yes, it absolutely does work. It takes practice. And for me, practice means consistency. So yes, we might fall off the wagon or do whatever, but you just have to get right back on. So I just call it, each meal is a new opportunity. So one meal that was unplanned fun food does not have to be the end all be all of 3 weeks or 3 months or 3 years of going off of a healthful eating plan. It just takes to the next meal. You can just course correct. And sometimes we go on vacation and really do it up on vacation, and then you come back home from vacation and you just kind of just get back to where you were and just really embrace all those fun things. So, practice and consistency.
So there's the old way of dieting, restriction, just constant frustration of being on or off a plan, or you can learn how to build a personal practice for long-term vibrant health, get to the root of your symptoms, and increase your self-confidence, which that comes from making the commitment to yourself, going through the process of showing up for a period of time, which is, there's going to be, it's not like all rainbows and butterflies. Like you're going to have these like bumps in the road or challenges that you're going to have to figure out a way to overcome. But that's what gives you self-confidence. You don't just like you can just like get self. You can make a decision right now to say like, I'm gonna be confident, it's gonna be amazing, which I do encourage you to do. But as far as overcoming like your diet mentality and losing weight, there's just natural challenges. That's what we see with clients, so we know that's a thing. But we want you to have all of this. So if you have questions, please reach out to us. You can email us or just go to our website, Path Nutrition. We have a detox coming up, and it's not just like a regular like detox. We just talked about how we hate cleanses, but it's a different plan. It's all very nourishing. It's all about whole foods and kind of figuring out what things don't serve you. Or we'd love to work with you one-on-one.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks
we
for
enjoyed
joining
having
us.
you.
Have an awesome day.
All right.